Some dates are etched in our collective memory, forever linked to tragedy and profound change. We remember where we were, what we were doing, the shock and disbelief that rippled across the world. Chernobyl is one such date. But when exactly did this catastrophe occur? And why has it continued to haunt us for decades? On April 26, 1986, at 1:23 a.m., the seemingly impossible happened. Deep within the Soviet Union, at the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant near the city of Pripyat, a routine safety test went catastrophically wrong. Reactor number 4, riddled with design flaws and mismanaged by inexperienced operators, became a ticking time bomb. The ensuing explosion ripped through the reactor building, spewing radioactive material high into the atmosphere. The force of the blast was so powerful that it blew the 1,000-ton concrete lid off the reactor, exposing the core to the open air. The world watched in horror as a plume of radioactive smoke and debris billowed into the sky, carrying with it an invisible threat that would forever alter the landscape and the lives of millions. Chernobyl stands as a stark reminder of the immense power of nuclear energy and the devastating consequences when that power is unleashed without control. It serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of transparency, accountability, and the critical need for stringent safety protocols in the face of such potent forces. The city of Pripyat, located just miles from the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, was once a model Soviet city. It was a place where the ideals of Soviet life were brought to fruition, a shining example of what the future could hold. Built in the 1970s to house the plant's workers and their families, Pripyat boasted modern amenities, a bustling town square, and a vibrant community. The city had schools, hospitals, and recreational facilities, all designed to provide a high quality of life for its residents. Life was good for the residents of Pripyat, their days filled with the routines of daily life, unaware of the ticking time bomb in their midst. Children played in the parks, families enjoyed outings, and workers went about their daily tasks, all under the shadow of the nuclear plant. The Chernobyl plant itself was a source of pride for the Soviet Union. It represented the pinnacle of Soviet engineering and ambition, a testament to the nation's ability to harness the power of the atom. It was a symbol of progress, of the nation's technological prowess. The plant was a key part of the Soviet Union's plan to become a global leader in nuclear energy, showcasing their ability to produce clean, efficient power. The 4 RBMK-1000 reactors, a Soviet design, were considered state-of-the-art, capable of producing vast amounts of electricity to fuel the nation's growth. These reactors were seen as the future of energy production, promising to meet the growing demands of the Soviet economy. However, behind the facade of progress lurked a fatal flaw. The design of the RBMK-1000 reactors had inherent risks that were not fully understood or acknowledged by those in power. The RBMK-1000 reactors, while powerful, were inherently unstable. Their design included a positive void coefficient, which meant that an increase in steam production could lead to a rapid increase in reactor power, creating a dangerous feedback loop. Design flaws coupled with a culture of secrecy and a lack of proper training for operators created a recipe for disaster. Operators were often unaware of the full extent of the risks they were managing, and the lack of transparency meant that critical safety information was not shared. Warnings from engineers about the reactor's shortcomings were ignored, dismissed as unfounded concerns by a government more focused on meeting production quotas than ensuring safety. The pressure to maintain high production levels often led to the overlooking of safety protocols. In the months leading up to the disaster, there were several near misses, incidents that hinted at the potential for catastrophe. These incidents were often downplayed or covered up, further contributing to the dangerous situation. Yet these warning signs were ignored, brushed aside by a system that valued secrecy and control over transparency and safety. The culture of secrecy meant that even those who were aware of the risks were often unable to speak out or take action. The stage was set for an unprecedented disaster, one that would forever change the course of history. The combination of flawed reactor design, inadequate training, and a culture of secrecy created a perfect storm, leading to one of the worst nuclear disasters the world has ever seen. The night shift at Chernobyl began like any other, with a sense of routine. Operators, unaware of the horrors that awaited them, went about their duties, preparing for a routine safety test that seemed harmless. The test, designed to simulate a power outage, was meant to demonstrate the plant's ability to cool the reactor core even in the event of a complete loss of external power. However, A series of critical errors and misjudgments would turn this routine test into an unimaginable nightmare. Due to a design flaw in the RBMK-1000 reactor, the test protocol itself was flawed, setting in motion a chain reaction that would prove uncontrollable and disastrous. As operators followed the flawed protocol, the reactor became increasingly unstable, spiraling out of control. At 1:23 a.m., the unthinkable happened, changing everything. A power surge ripped through reactor number 4, causing a sudden and catastrophic increase in energy output. The reactor's emergency shutdown system, designed to prevent such an event, malfunctioned due to both design flaws and operator error. The reactor was now in a supercritical state, producing an exponentially increasing amount of energy. Within seconds, a massive explosion tore through the reactor building, sending a shockwave that was felt miles away. The force of the blast ejected the reactor's 1,000-ton concrete lid, exposing the core to the open air and releasing a deadly plume of radioactive material into the atmosphere. The nightmare had begun. Section 4. The immediate aftermath. A ghost town emerges from the ashes. The once thriving city of Pripyat, home to thousands, was transformed overnight into a desolate wasteland. In the immediate aftermath of the explosion, confusion and disbelief reigned. People struggled to comprehend the magnitude of what had just occurred. The scale of the disaster was unimaginable, the consequences still unknown. The air was thick with uncertainty and fear. Firefighters, first responders to the scene, bravely battled the inferno, unaware of the invisible enemy they faced. They fought tirelessly, their courage shining through the chaos. Many would pay the ultimate price for their heroism, succumbing to acute radiation sickness in the days and weeks that followed. Their sacrifice would not be forgotten. The residents of Pripyat, awakened by the sound of the explosion or the eerie glow emanating from the power plant, watched in fear and bewilderment. They had no idea what was happening or the danger they were in. Evacuation orders would not come until 36 hours after the initial explosion, a delay that exposed thousands to dangerous levels of radiation. This delay would have lasting consequences. When the order finally came, residents were told to pack only what they could carry, believing they would return in a matter of days. They left behind their homes, their memories, and their lives. The evacuation of Pripyat was a scene of chaos and heartbreak. Families were hurriedly packing, children crying, and the elderly struggling to keep up. Families were torn apart, forced to leave behind their homes, their possessions, their lives. The sense of loss was palpable. The once vibrant city became a ghost town, its streets eerily deserted, its buildings standing as silent witnesses to the tragedy. The silence was deafening. Toys lay abandoned in playgrounds, meals sat half-eaten on tables, a chilling testament to the suddenness with which life in Pripyat had changed forever. The abruptness of the evacuation left a haunting mark. As the world began to grasp the magnitude of the disaster, a sense of dread and uncertainty spread. The realization that such a catastrophe could happen anywhere was terrifying. The invisible threat of radiation knew no borders, no political boundaries. It was a silent, pervasive danger that could not be contained. The Chernobyl disaster was not just a Soviet problem, it was a global crisis. The world watched in horror, united in their fear and concern for the future. Section 5. Silent Killer. The invisible threat of radiation. Radiation, the silent killer released by the Chernobyl disaster, is a complex and often misunderstood phenomenon. It is a form of energy that can have devastating effects on living organisms and the environment. Unlike other hazards, it cannot be seen, smelled, or tasted, making its presence all the more insidious. This invisibility makes it difficult for people to comprehend the danger it poses. To understand the true impact of Chernobyl, it's crucial to grasp the nature of this invisible threat. The disaster not only affected the immediate area but also had far-reaching consequences that are still being felt today. Radiation, in simple terms, is energy that travels in the form of waves or particles. These can penetrate various materials, including human tissue, causing damage at a cellular level. It's all around us, emanating from natural sources like the sun and cosmic rays. Even the Earth itself emits radiation from naturally occurring radioactive materials. However, at high doses, radiation can be incredibly harmful to living organisms, damaging cells and DNA, leading to a range of health problems. This includes both immediate effects and long-term consequences. The Chernobyl disaster released a massive amount of radiation into the environment, primarily in the form of radioactive isotopes like iodine-131, cesium-137, and strontium-90. These isotopes have different properties and half-lives affecting the environment in various ways. These isotopes with varying half-lives contaminated the air, water, and soil, posing both immediate and long-term health risks. The contamination spread far beyond the immediate vicinity of the disaster site. The effects of radiation exposure vary depending on the dose, the type of radiation, and the duration of exposure. Different types of radiation have different levels of penetration and energy, leading to varying degrees of harm. High doses can cause acute radiation sickness, a life-threatening condition characterized by nausea, vomiting, hair loss, and damage to internal organs. This condition requires immediate medical attention and can be fatal if not treated promptly. Long-term exposure to lower doses can increase the risk of cancer, genetic mutations, and other health problems. These effects may not become apparent until many years after the initial exposure. Understanding the nature of radiation and its effects is crucial for comprehending the full scope of the Chernobyl disaster and its lasting legacy. This knowledge helps in developing strategies for mitigation and prevention of future incidents. The invisible threat of radiation continues to cast a long shadow over the region, shaping the lives of those affected for generations to come. The legacy of Chernobyl serves as a stark reminder of the potential dangers of nuclear energy and the importance of safety measures.